Well, everybody, welcome to the Shorter Artist Hour where I talk to my superbly talented friends that I think the world needs to know more about. And we might not talk for a full hour, but that's okay because it's the Shorter Artist Hour because I'm Susan Shorter. And
Perfect.
today I have with me one of the kings of the fantasy art world, a man that needs no introduction, Mr. Omar Rayyan. Woo! Thank you for coming on and chatting with me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
Oh, are you recovered from Gen Con yet?
Yeah,
Are you guys far? Where
yeah.
state do you live in?
We're on Martha's Vineyard on the Cape.
Oh shit. All right.
Yeah, so it's literally 1,000 miles.
Okay. Are you guys
Yeah.
doing Dragon Con?
No,
No, me either.
no. I got invited to it once,
Yeah,
and so because if I get invited, I'll show up because it's always fun to be invited.
for
But
sure.
it was like going Gen Con, Dragon Con, Deluxe Con. It was too much,
Yeah.
back and forth and back and forth
It
and
takes
back
a
and
lot
forth.
out. Like I'm a bit of a homebody.
Because
I assume you are.
yeah. Although Sheila, the most wonderful person in the whole world, her stuff at SheilaRayyan.com. See, I'm working it,
Yeah,
eh?
you're a good husband. Good
Yeah,
Jimmy.
yeah. Yeah, she's always kind of like, we got to go out more, we got to do more. And she likes doing road trips. And then we're on a road trip. She's like, I want to go home. It's
Yep.
too exhausting being on the road.
Well, now mentioning your lovely lady, I mean,
Mhm.
most of us that know you know that you're part of a dynamic duo. I mean, you and
Um,
Sheila are an artistic power couple. How did you meet this lovely woman?
um, Art school, that's where you meet artistic power people,
Yeah.
is you go to art school. So it was part of my master plan. When I was 6 years old, I had to go to an art school to find an artistic power person.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and then trap them and then make them help build me a career because it really is all her.
Oh, it's
'Cause
awesome. Well, see, okay.
she started actually when she was in grade school, high school, she was doing conventions. And when Boscone, she grew up outside of Boston, and Boscone was enormous back then. It was bigger than a Worldcon apparently. And she would go and do sketches and stuff and sell them at because they used to do it auction style.
Yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah.
Where you go ahead and you put your stuff up on pegboards and then a little
Wow.
slip suggested price, and then they go ahead and get bid sheets.
That's
You
awesome.
just walk away for the weekend and have fun. So she used to have fun as an underage in Boston in the conventions, in these big old conventions,
I
selling
can't
her art.
imagine being that driven at that age.
Well, I think she was just having a shit ton of fun
Oh,
because it was like, I get kind of help pay for it a bit as just a school kid.
hell yeah.
And I met her first year, first week at RISD,
And that was just
and we
it.
were hanging out. And I think by the second year, she was kind of like, she took some of my stuff to Bosco and sold it all.
Nice.
So she actually sold my stuff first before I even sold it. And I was like, oh, this works pretty neat. So it's like the whole convention, especially because of the bid sheet system,
Hmm.
means that you could go ahead. I was literally doing pen and ink, ballpoint pen on grocery bags, like anything, just
Yeah.
scribbles a goofy ogre sitting on a pig or something like that. Slap it on the wall, you put $50 on it and see what happens.
That's
And
awesome.
then the bids would go ahead and accumulate to wherever the market was setting it. And you get, so it's a good instant feedback
Yeah.
as to what people liked, what people didn't, what tickled them. And then you start, yeah, so I start building from that. And it was Worldcon that I met my first art director
Wow.
for children's magazine, Cricket. And
I
that kind
remember
of
cricket.
broke in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that broke in. And from there, book publishers and did a lot of YA book cover stuff. But it was all Sheila.
That's awesome.
Makes wonderful mugs now.
So, has this always been the dream? It looks like you're living like the ideal bohemian lifestyle with the animals and the lovely wife and, just showing up to conventions, people can throw money and praise at you and getting to paint and like, has this always been the goal? Was there ever another career that was considered?
And not. technically not. My father didn't believe in you can't make a living as an artist. Um, so I actually enrolled at RISD in architecture.
Really?
My father's an engineer, and I was
Wow.
good at math and shit, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, and I changed majors in the first month
Yeah.
because it's
Art
like the
wasn't enough.
brilliant thing also at RISD was it's like freshman foundation. Everybody goes through the same freshman foundation, so it was actually kind of getting you hanging out with architect students and all that too. But it's like we all had to do drawing in 2D and 3D and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so when you go and spend 8 hours a day drawing naked people versus talking to architects, and
Hell
they're
yeah.
like, what is it, a 5 or 6 year program? And it's like a shit ton of engineering maths and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And now I got a bunch of friends that are actually architects. They graduate from RISD. There's so many RISD people out there. And they're in meetings all the time
Mm.
and having to do permits and all that paperwork shit.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm just doing the same thing I was doing when I was 9 years old.
But that's wonderful that it was able to like come to fruition and actually be a
Yeah,
career.
yeah, I was very lucky. I was very lucky with the support of the family and meeting Shill that went ahead and helped with it.
I did read that you were born in Jordan. How
Yep.
long did you live there? And have you ever gone back or?
Yeah, well, I still have family there.
Yeah.
I was born there. My father was working. My father's Palestinian.
Cool.
Met my mother in University of Texas, getting a doctorate in engineering, and uh, and then we lived in Saudi, in Dhahran. He was working for Aramco, and then moved to Doha, Qatar,
Yeah.
where he's working with his brothers in construction engineering, building lots of stuff. And then he ended. Then high school went back to Jordan,
Yeah.
and I did high school in Jordan. He was a professor of engineering at the University of Jordan.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that would feel like a lot to live up to because like my dad was like top of his business and all of that, and my mom was extraordinary in every way and
Yeah, yeah,
intimidating.
he was inspiring. He still holds the record for getting his doctorate faster than anyone else at UT.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he is very driven. They ended up with absolutely nothing after 48, and so the family went from nothing to scrambling
Wow.
as expats to rebuild. And so it's like he's always had that kind of work ethic thing, which now he regrets because it's like all that work. We didn't spend a lot of time together. And I spent a lot of time just doodling.
Yeah. Right
Yeah.
on. Did your mom support your chasing art?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Jason, but she definitely had
Yeah.
artistic flair to herself. So probably got the art gene part from her.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
So watching you work now, like all your stuff is so textured and it just seems very organic. And I guess I can you're kind of answering my question now watching you work. I like, do you just kind of go on to autopilot and just do what feels right? Or are you consciously thinking about your mark making?
a bit of both, as especially as I'm getting older,
Yeah.
and trying to consider the fundamentals. Um, because before it was just kind of slap things down and hopefully it works. And now it's a little bit more of why. So it's like I've always liked studying the old masters and stuff and kind of figure out why, but it's like seeing what they did and how they supposedly worked. It's always one of those how-to book things and never how the artist actually does things.
Yeah.
Um, but figuring out what works for me because I was never a work it out in sketches first kind of guy.
Hmm.
So because I like the organic, you said the gestural,
Yeah.
like to hunt for things, um, but to go ahead and not make it chaos is tricky. So I'm starting to pay more attention to because I was a noodler. I like ballpoint pen. I like pencil.
Yeah, me
In high
too.
school, I didn't even do color until college. Um, and so it was all kind of like that noodly detail-y. and explore all the little whatnots, which you could get lost in the totality of something. So especially with oil, um, and I'm starting to do it with watercolor more too. Is laying down very thin wash and just push around with a decent sized brush
Yeah.
and start finding edges and shapes, and then seeing what you like, and then going in with the smaller shit and pick out parts I want.
Oh yeah. Okay, just because I'm also a watercolor artist, do you have
Mhm.
like a favorite paper? Do you like to do hot press, cold press? What's your jam?
Hot press Fabriano
Ah,
artistico. I've settled on. I've never liked arches because it smelled funny.
oh yeah. I haven't noticed it's
Yeah,
been pilling on me when I don't put much work into it.
yeah,
Because I got one, I like
really.
hot press too, because I like the
Yeah,
detail.
yeah, yeah. This go with the detail, and the Fabriano we've puts up because I'm a I like searching,
Me
like,
too.
and danger of overworking, but I love dropping stuff in, sponging it out, scrubbing it out.
Yeah.
Occasionally try to scrape it out. I'm not a scraper. I don't really like to scrape.
No, it's
Um, but but the Fabriano paper holds up pretty good. I mean, I haven't played with watercolor paper since the 90s and
yeah.
Strathmore and Arches, and I just remember some of them delaminating, and Arches always smelled like wet dog, as I remembered back in the day on what the sizing is that they use. Fabriano's size does tend to deteriorate if it sits around for a while,
Okay.
and then it turns a little bit kind of Kleenex spongy. Um, so you have to use it fresh. That's the only thing I found. Otherwise, the size, I like the sizing on it, and it lets you kind of push the paint around decent amount. For
Do you
me, the
ever
way I work.
do you ever try masking fluid or anything? I've been kind of wanting
No.
to just experiment. I've never used it. I just leave the white of the paper, how I was taught in school.
Yeah, yeah, I like to go ahead and dodge for my whites if I'm actually thinking enough, which I
Hmm.
normally aren't. Now it's trying to pay more attention to values, so that ends up being a lot more important. But I don't like throwing extra stuff at things.
Yeah.
It's like my oil right now, it's turpentine, walnut oil, and two tube colors. And
Never do any liquid or anything like that?
I did back in the day, it started feeling too plasticky.
Oh yeah,
I did a stint going in doing murals because coming out of school, you take any job you can.
absolutely.
Yep. So then I got some big mural painting stuff. It was sort of fun, but it's like acrylic, of course, is fantastic medium and it's the one to work with. And it ended up feeling like I was covered in plastic at the end of the day.
Interesting. So I've been wanting
Because
to pick up my oils again. I haven't really done it since college, and yeah, I'm kind of tentative about it. Don't know whether okay, I'll try the walnut oil.
I've settled on walnut just recently. Before that, I was, yeah, you learn with the traditional medium linseed, Damar,
Yeah,
terp, um, and done some stuff that's just terps. But I've kind of found, especially oiling out problems and whatnot. But even it's like first thing I do is I go ahead and lay a thin sheen of walnut or linseed or whatever oil
yeah.
on, and then with the terps and the walnut, mostly terps, work thin washes. So it's my
Yeah.
interesting process has been because I was primarily watercolors for decades, even though I didn't take a watercolor class at RISD. So I kind of figured out watercolor my own way,
Yeah.
which was because I was just a pencil sketcher. Um, was to go ahead and use a size one Kolinsky sable and just draw with it.
Itty bitty. All right.
So I was pretty much drawing, occasionally go ahead and lay wash, a lot of drawing, a lot of scumbling, a lot of dry brush, very minimal on the washes. So I never stretched paper or anything like that.
But that makes so
And
much
I'm
sense.
lazy. I don't like to do extra shit.
But now, like looking at your work, that kind of makes sense because yes, you have your wash and stuff, but you also have a lot of where it just looks like you are drawing with paint. So you're
Yeah,
still kind of channeling that.
yeah.
That leads into my questions I wanted to ask about. You have one of the most identifiable styles, whether you're doing it in watercolor or oil or whatever. There's no doubt that that's an Omar painting. So many young artists are like, how do I build my style? What do I do? What is my style? And they're so neurotic about that. And I too I was trying everything out of college. Do you feel like it just naturally evolved, or did you just kind of like settle on something? You're like, this is comfortable for me. This is it.
Um, Maybe it's the comfortable part is the diplomatic way of saying
Yeah.
it. It's kind of like if I wanted to try and go ahead and copy somebody,
Hmm.
and maybe this is again me being lazy and bored, um, is I wouldn't go ahead and be able to copy,
Hmm.
exactly. It would have your flavor to it, your own flavor. So it's recognizing what it is you naturally do anyway.
Yeah.
I never understood that thing about style. I mean, if you're able to go ahead and successfully paint, there was that German guy, Gen Con, several years ago. I was thinking about him just last week because it's like we went to dinner with him and I think that restaurant closed. And his whole thing was he didn't have a distinctive style as a strategy to go ahead and be able to get as many jobs as he can.
I've heard that.
Yeah, him or his mother or something was very, again, parents being kind of like, oh shit, how are you gonna make a living at this? So it's like, spread your net wide, you know?
Hmm.
It's like if you could paint like this and paint like that and paint, so however the market's changing or whatever the zeitgeist is, if you're able to copy the flavor of the day, you got
Employable.
yourself, yeah. But he was also bemoaning it because he's anonymous, he's unrecognizable,
Yeah.
it's like because he blends right into the market.
Hmm.
But he's got an incredible talent to be able to be that kind of mimic.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I love looking at, I mean, this piece right now, I'm looking back at Van Dyke, is one of my favorite painters to go to. I just love the way he does line and gesture.
Yeah.
It's just the most boring aristocrat, whatever. It's like, hi, I'm rich kind of portraits, but you look at how he poses them and how he catches and really brings a
Yeah.
personality out and the way he gets a fold of cloth to just do something. It's just so fantastic. So it's like I'm trying, but I'm not going to touch it. But so it's him being filtered through my incompetence goes and creates,
No, I
you
feel like
know,
my style came out whenever I was too busy to even think about it. And then it just like I was like, oh wait, all that kind of has a vibe to it. But when I was a children's book illustrator, I had to do what that guy did. I had to like see people would be like, I want this to be in the style of Scooby-Doo. I want this to be in the style of
uh,
whatever, you know.
no, I never
And
got asked for that.
yeah, and that paid bills. But what
It,
other? All right, go ahead.
no, it's to go ahead and actually be asked to go ahead and do a particular, again, partially just the luck of how I got in this because I did get into some children's book and stuff and magazine work. And doing watercolor is like you can't do book covers, but I did book covers in watercolor.
Right on.
But it was never kind of like it had to look like X. It was just make it work
Yeah.
was a thing and make it printable, especially watercolor to make it strong enough that it would be, especially back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Um, but so it, yeah, and that's where I don't know how what people are doing now getting into the industry and what sort of hoops, and because there is a very strong sense of um sameness, of being corporate, of being, it's like we get fantastic eye candy concept artists, but they're all starting to look the same. Like there's a certain punch flavor
And that might get
that's,
them some work, but it's yeah, not going to
yeah,
make them
yeah, which makes it
recognizable.
really easy to, because I mean, that's kind of part of my blessing that I've been able to make a living in this because I've only mostly worked for very small publishing houses
Yeah.
with very, I guess they have lower expectations or not as much of a need to go ahead and answer to that corporate body.
Not following trends and all that good
So
shit.
so it's like the art directors were super cool, and it's like, most of the time I just give one sketch, okay, go, just look out for X, fine. So it's as opposed to having to go ahead and do multiple whatnots for the committee and the editorial and
Yeah.
everybody to kind of scratch their heads over because it's going to be 10 million copies of it and we got to get it right and it can't offend anybody. And yeah, so it's a kind of a that blessing of working in the side of the industry that was very chill, which
That's,
allowed me to play
yeah,
because the art directors were willing to take a chance.
it is nice. I'm doing my first like non-self-publishing book. I'm doing it with Penguin now and working with the art directors. They've been like you were talking about, just really, really cool, really laid back and down to see what I'm gonna make. So fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's excellent. Congrats.
Thanks.
Yeah, and it is one of those because it's like occasionally kind of bump into something that's being used to, even with magic. It's like been really cool just working, although they go through art directors. I don't know how many art directors I worked with, but it's always kind of this one-on-one and hey, we're having fun.
That's awesome.
It's not this kind of sense of this big monster behind you kind of one because there was that short period on one of those decks where they were trying to homogenize the look, and it's
Yeah.
like the most boring. And it's like fans, I mean, that's what's great about Gen Con is you meet people because I don't play the game, so I'm not really in that circle. So things like
Same.
Gen Con allow me to kind of go like, what's going on out there? And they were bemoaning when things were getting too homogenized because they like to be able to recognize the artists.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's like so long as Magic remembers us, like that there's a big chunk of it, the uniqueness of the art that comes out of that format is actually quite impressive. But when
absolutely.
it gets too corporate and they try and go and make it look managed,
That's one of my favorite things at Gen Con is walking up and down the art show and it's like nobody's work looks like the person next to them. And it's so freaking beautiful. I love that variety.
yeah.
You've done a lot of magic stuff now, haven't you?
I'm still one of the little guys. I don't
Really?
really know how many. It's like I still only think I did a couple of dozen, but I think
Sounds
it's
like a
more than
lot to
that by
me.
now. It's like every year I do. Yeah, I guess every year I do a half a dozen or so.
Yeah,
And I've been doing it for a little bit.
that's great.
Time comes along. But yeah, but I'm still, I can tell I'm still one of the little guys because when it comes to signing cards and shit, I can still move my wrist afterwards. Talk to someone like Mark Poole and it's like,
Sure.
now, yeah, there's, Prescott and Murphy. I
Yeah.
mean, they've done cards. I just got to get a stack. Just to get
Oh.
a stack.
Well, speaking of the Gen Con art show, what artists are kind of piquing your interest now? Who's standing out to you, inspiring
Um,
wise?
that's a tricky question. They're all my favorite children.
They are.
Oh, that is kind of a tough one because it is because we're all doing stuff for our own. I mean, that's the part, and that's a little bit of the part that I'm, getting back to fundamentals when I'm trying to build a painting is keeping clear as to what I'm trying to actually accomplish. Because it's
Mm,
trying to say something, and it's trying to say something in a uniformed way that has a bit of a punch. So it's like I got certain problems I'm trying to solve with each project and still kind of keeping it within the portfolio. Um, and that sort of thing when walking around through a gallery ends up being a bit on the selfish mercy. I mean, it's not necessarily inspiration as much as oh, what that person did with that line,
yeah.
how that pop of color just happened. It was like it's like that the element of admiring something like because I go um in washes, but I love heavy impasto brushwork.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
bold.
it's just so fun to look at a juicy painting,
Yeah.
but damned if and as I try and do that, and this is, which comes back to like, you got your own you're built certain ways. This is the way you express brand. You know, it's like if
Yeah.
I practice at it, I could probably go ahead and learn to paint like Sorolla or Sargent. But it's like if I could go ahead and get the story across in what seems to naturally come, but
Yeah.
look for like trying to figure out the what makes it work aside from the technical eye candy,
Hmm.
you know, the trick, because there's a lot, because one of the things I kind of resist a lot, and I'm using watercolor a little bit more washy and looser now, but I've been resisting it mostly because I watercolor becomes very easy to be expressive by using tricks,
Mm.
wet on wet, throw a little salt in it,
Yep.
sponge it out, use a bit of crinkle, you get this all busyness, and it's like bam, you know, but to understand, you know, what, okay, texture doing there versus a sharp edge there and a lost edge there,
Yeah.
and seeing it's like, why does a sergeant go ahead and it's like the simplification of how he'll go ahead and talk about a hand. I can't handle a brush like him, but I can go and appreciate, don't overcomplicate it,
Yeah.
look for what's important in keeping that life in it. And that sort of thing is what end up, you know, like Gen Con walking through there is more interestingly was seeing how the industry is shifting more than the craft is. I mean, and the craft is too, because it's, you know, there's a lot of what people are doing with digital, how people are like coming back to just traditional media,
Yeah. What do you
and
think it's
how
because
the
of AI
two kind
stuff?
of interact and create a slightly different language,
Yeah.
which is kind of fun. But yeah,
Yeah, I love that you can see the classical influences in your work. Yeah, like you mentioned, the lost and found edges and all of that kind of stuff. So it feels like it definitely is hearkening to that, but it's your own modern spin on illustration, and it's freaking gorgeous.
thank
One
you.
thing, you're welcome. One thing that I always love, well, several things, but one thing that I especially love in your work is the humor that you put into it. I know for me, like my dad raised me on like Abbott and Costello, Looney Tunes, all that
Mm,
kind of stuff, and old radio
yeah,
shows. I'm curious, what makes you laugh and what do you think, might be that element in you that you're putting in the paintings? What makes you
there's
giggle?
I think it's actually, I was just in a car with a buddy of mine. He's got a couple of kids. It's like everyone's having children, fucking things up. But the little 2 year old was screaming, so he went ahead and put on Tom and Jerry
Hell yeah.
on his phone in the car, and it was like, shit, see this, what? And it was like, yeah, it's like Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner and Chuck Jones and
Yes.
all of that. It's like that stuff
I don't know if you guys get this channel. Do you have
definitely.
Me TV tunes? So this is not art related. My husband and I
Yeah,
flip out on that because yeah, it's the Tom and Jerry, it's the Looney Tunes, it's the
yeah,
good old stuff that our parents
yeah.
watch
I
with
mean,
us.
in this day and age, you could go ahead and find them again, but it is the sort of thing I was doing my math homework in front of it because it was playing in the afternoon,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like in there you kind of learn timing and movement and
Yeah.
expression. It's like the way that cat and mouse just run through a room
Yeah.
and the way parts kind of, and it's those were brilliant.
Well, and some
And
of
then
it,
they'll spoof on a lot of classical,
yeah,
and even
absolutely.
as a youngin, I was getting it, you know, and it was like, so I had the richness of the nostalgia of the old school, but it was kind of like tweaking its nose, and it's just made it that much more.
Yeah. Well, it just made me think about the parallel of like a lot of your subject matter is like cute, funny animals that are imbibing and this and that. And it's like we had that in the old Looney Tunes and stuff. So it's, yeah, I can totally see that now. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. That leads me to something that a little birdie told me that you
Uh-oh.
yourself did not have a cocktail until you were 30.
Um, Maybe 38. And I don't do cocktails
Oh, a
because that's
drink.
disgusting. And that was the thing is like, you know, it was being in college and all of that. And it was like the stuff tasted like shit. I didn't get it. So it was into my 30s. I had a
Wow.
buddy that went ahead and, is it cognac or brandy.
Yeah.
Top shelf. It was top shelf stuff. And I was like, oh, and that made a lot more sense. It's
But
like,
that stuff will burn your soul out. I can't believe, like, it's so
mm,
strong, at least the stuff
no,
I've tried.
no. I mean, that's the thing with top shelf. It's smooth
Yeah,
and lovely, and you take a sip because it's not a knock it back sort of thing. That's college is a terrible place to learn how to drink.
it is. It's cheap beer and a
It's
lot of it.
yeah, and it's a lot of just bravado of knocking shit in so you could get a buzz. And it's like, no, that's not what drinking is about.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if you get something that's high quality and you just take a sip, you have a tumbler and you milk that tumbler for an hour because you
Mhm.
take the sip and you can just feel it for
Just warm.
15, 20 minutes. It's still there. It's like, ah.
Yeah, my brother sent me some new bottles. They're over there. I'll have to show them to you later. They're amazing. Oh my God. But yeah, he's very much you got I forget what it's called, for the whiskey, the
hmm
glass that's shaped like this.
Um,
But then, yeah,
yeah,
the warmth of your hand warms it up and all
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. It's
And
the
so when I
yeah,
come near him with mixers,
brandy
he gets so
snifter.
mad. Yes.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah,
just that you just didn't like the taste and all that. It
yeah.
wasn't
Well, it's
anything.
again, it's like do what works for you
Hmm.
and recognize what works for you, and and if it doesn't, don't. And so there was that point where it was like that not only as a hobby, but also as kind of a, I think because my body was getting older too, 'cause it was in the late 30s. My body definitely shifted by mid 40s. So I do a lot of martial arts and stuff. So it's like you
Oh,
go from being immortal and bouncing off the walls to like, ooh, things are getting kind of icky.
yeah. How long have
So
you been doing martial arts?
uh, since college,
Yeah,
since the late 80s,
really? Any
pretty much
particular?
consistently everything from Okinawan karate. Now I'm basing more on Aikido, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, a little bit of mixed match of catch wrestle, and buddies trying to go ahead and teach me bits of Taekwondo and stuff.
That's fantastic.
But the grappling arts, and the grappling, especially when it gets into Japanese jiu-jitsu work,
Yeah,
and my initial foundation in Okinawan Uechi-ryu karate. So it's like this striking in, trapping, and then throws is again back to that sense of movement
yeah,
and organic. And once you get to a certain point, you can start really playing with it, and the energies are really fun, and you start making neat shapes, and you just follow it and see where it takes. And but you still have a formal structure that you have to respect.
yeah,
So it's exactly the same as I'm finding when I started really cross training and that stuff and mixing and start seeing the similarities at the very basic foundation of just basic forms, be it painting or be it martial art or be it music or be it whatever. It's like there's basic structural forms the universe likes that if you build a nice foundation on it, you can start playing. And I like to be free to place, but it means I have to have the discipline to kind of
yeah,
the same time kind of go, okay, just a minute. Where's the important, and no matter how detailed a piece is, there's usually half a dozen or less lines that are actually telling the whole story. You could reduce everything down to an abstraction of like 4 or 5 gestural lines and recognizing that's what I'm doing right now. It's like you're hunting throughout all the noise, is
yeah,
finding out, oh, that line and that line and that line, and that's going to bring you to the little piece of detail that's going to hopefully evoke some kind of personality that you can go ahead and recognize. But it's like that movement has to be respected.
yeah,
And it's the same thing when you're picking up a kick or taking an arm. It's you have to respect that movement, but then all the noisy little bits of complicated joint locks are really dressing, because if you got the bigger structure, it'll take care of itself. And I think that's beautiful
it
when
is.
it's
And
like you're just riding the horse
yeah,
instead of trying to command and control. And it's like
yeah.
let it,
That's really wise because so many of us, we just get stuck in the noise, whether
yeah,
physically, artistically, mentally.
And that's one of those things that, and I don't know if because it's a younger crowd at Gen Con and younger artists, um, and that and the manga, anime, and digital really neat. I love the busyness because I love busy, but it's a lot of it is so big. And I don't know whether it's just because I do like to have some, or coming from an illustration, old school illustration background, where it's like if you don't see it and understand it in the first 5 seconds, you've
Yeah,
lost your client. While at the same time, I grew up just doodling, where it's like, no, and that's why I was in books at the beginning. It's like have it here and sit with it for 15 minutes and pick out all the neat little details.
yeah,
So it's like those two different schools. But if you don't catch enough of the simple to go ahead and hold up the detail, then
yeah.
it just becomes beautiful noise. But
Maybe theirs is also a lot busier now because of the shorter attention span
I
thing
was going to
with the
say
internet.
that
Yeah,
being the younger crowd that there are, it's like we grew up on Bugs Bunny TV
yeah. Or
with commercial
digesting a
breaks.
beautiful
And it's
illustration.
like they're like, yeah, they're getting all this. I mean, the amount because it's already 20th century, the amount of visual stimuli was like ridiculous. The 21st century to grow up in that, I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
And the kind of stress to feel that you have to keep up with that sort of constant, I call it eye candy. It's just that constant wow, 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 wow. It's like
yeah,
fireworks. It's like, wow, that was real cool. And then it's like, forgot it. What's the next one? As
yeah.
opposed to like a piece you can, like a good glass of whiskey, a piece that you could go ahead and, if you got
Favor.
a nice single malt, all you need is just that much and you can just sit with it for that whole afternoon instead of just constantly popping things and looking for the next high.
Yeah. So do you think that there's still going to be a need, a desire for the type of artwork that we do if the younger generation's doing the busier, more
Yeah, of course.
flashy pieces?
Yeah. I mean, vinyl is still collected.
Yeah, that's true.
I never had vinyl. That was cassette tape.
Yeah.
So that's even before my time.
Well, I had records as far as like I had God what
My
like
wife
the
has
Gremlin records
my
and
wife
stuff like that.
Sheila, who does wonderful ceramics, by the way. You must
Yes,
visit her site.
that is
Um,
correct.
yeah, she had a fantastic collection of really goofy vinyl, and it was like I thought that was the neatest thing because I didn't grow up with vinyl. They
So
didn't have it
talking
overseas. It was
oh,
cassette tape was just so much easier.
well, talking about that, what kind of music do you listen to? And do you do music while you work? Are you an audiobook guy? Are you a podcast guy? Are you silent?
I am both,
Yeah.
and it depends on because it's like I'm laying out a bunch of oils for a Lux. So building it, throwing the washes down and trying to find shapes, um, having music helps.
What kind of
And
music?
once all over the map, really. Um, Tends to be more rhythm. All over the map.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's like, I mean, it's like I'm on Pandora. Let's see if you really want it. You're so fucking nosy. Like, tell you.
It's my job today. Questions.
Uh, there's like acid jazz
Hmm.
stuff. There's good funk alliance. Um, there's baby metal.
Baby metal?
It's a Japanese heavy metal band that they tend to go ahead and they collaborate with a lot of other artists. So you end up with this. It's a female band, so they got that kind of Japanese anime bit in heavy metal, and then mixed in with all this other and the Pandora thing goes ahead and brings in a bunch of neat other Japanese artists and
I love
that
that.
do
How
neat sort of things.
you're more.
Richard Cheese Radio, that's really Richard Cheese always good for some really if you want to go back to slapstick, it goes ahead and spoofs on lounge singers,
Right
which
on.
is always fun. I mean Franz Ferdinand type stuff,
That's good.
Skrillex, MIA. Balkan beatbox,
Wow.
a little bit of Bach. Um, yeah, things like the Wise Guys and that kind of techno dance stuff is sometimes really fun to kind of paint too. Daft Punk, Bonzo Doodah. Can't ever go wrong without Bonzo, the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band.
Never heard of him. So you're
Oh,
giving me a lot of homework here.
yeah, it's Neil Innes and yeah, it's British 70s. I think Monty Python, but they can play music. Really fun.
Interesting thought.
You know, Zeppelin, Portishead, Spike Milligan, another one of those. But
Okay.
yeah, all over the place.
So do you play any instruments?
No, I like to make noise, but I have my own sense of rhythm apparently.
Right on.
Primus is really fun.
Primus is fun. I haven't thought of
Yeah,
Primus
and
in a
he
while.
does because his own stuff on the side too. Um I do kind of like stuff that I guess it's sort of the same. I didn't think about that. It's taking a structure of rock or blues or jazz and then tweaking it,
Yeah.
making it slightly different, remakes of. I mean, and there's like that jukebox type stuff which goes in, takes a lot of the bands would go ahead and take pieces from the 20s to the 40s and kind of techno dance them up a bit, so you get neat kind of throwbacks to Benny Goodman, but it's got a techno underbeat on it and shit like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, but that's only when I'm in the sketch period of it. And
Yeah.
then once it gets into the weeds, that stuff becomes too self-indulgent. Because then you have fun and you think you're doing great and it's got a soundtrack and it's looking fantastic, and then you
Yeah.
come back the next morning and go, what the fuck did I just do? So I find that when it gets into really getting the pick, I go to an audiobook,
Mm,
and if the voice is right, I find it turns off a certain part of the brain to let
yeah.
the other part of the brain just unconsciously do the work. Because if I'm too consciously aware, I tend to step all over it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's something I just realized about myself on that one.
What kind of audiobooks do you get into?
Like I said, it's more about the reader than
The what?
anything else.
Reader.
Yeah, I mean they tend to be, quirky or fantasy or something, a little off the wall
Yeah.
a bit, but it also has to have a decently easy to follow story plot. There's a bunch of books I would love to, because I'm a slow reader and I tend to every night I go ahead and read a paragraph and then fall asleep. So it takes me a year to finish a
Yeah. Sounds like
book,
my husband.
which is fine.
Yeah.
But there's books that I would think, oh, I could just audio book it and I'll be able to get into it. And it's like, but it's a lot of them too hard to kind of can't pay too much attention to that because it's still have to pay attention to that. So it's finding the balance of what is just keeping the busybody in here out of the
Yeah.
way, but not distracting.
Any kind of pleasant background noise. If it's anything I'm concentrating on, then I don't know. I can't listen to something I have to concentrate on if it's something that if I'm at a stage where I need to think about the art. But if I'm just, yeah, doing washes and stuff, I like my murder podcasts personally. I heard a comedian recently talking about, he's like, well, I like to have my espresso, my murder podcast. He's like, I don't know why I'm so twitchy. Maybe it's all the murder and stimulants.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I
yeah,
feel that.
it is a bit of do you want to go ahead and create a mood, but
Yeah. I
and
do
I'm
try
not
to do
so
the
much
type of music for the mood of the painting.
I I kind of thought that a little bit, but I didn't realize it's more just where my own headset's at,
Yeah.
because because what it's like I had like more chill out stuff going,
Hmm.
just because that's where I'm at in the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and then in about an hour that'll be like too sleepy, and then go ahead and throw on some dubstep,
Oh yeah, I feel that.
you know, depending on where this is. But this is starting to, although you got to go ahead and figure out the fabrics.
Well, I have a question about
Okay.
the subject matter. You paint a lot. A lot of times you throw in little demonic creatures and stuff like that. So that begs the question, how much do you believe in the possibility of things like fairies that live in the woods of Scotland or cryptids or Loch Ness monsters? Do you believe in any of the like folklore stuff, the things that exist in the gray sparkly areas?
Like for real?
Yeah, like for real, or the possibility, or even
Um,
paranormal, you know?
it's like no.
Okay, no, that's fair.
No, it's like cryptozoology and all that. It's like it's fun, and there is definitely a certain period, and it's kind of one of those things of the. I used to actually go and listen to a lot of 18th century novelists, um, everything from Herman Melville on, especially if it had a boat in it, there was a ship.
Yeah,
It was fun. It was neat. If actually, those were a lot of those old 19th century maritime adventure books are really. I got to go back to those. They're fun to listen to, and easy and kind of neat because everything's contained on a ship. But that sense of like going out into the unknown and hitting
yeah,
an island, and it's like all this. Oh my God, what is that? Um, but supernatural and paranormal are kind of oxymorons in my head. It's, if it exists, it's natural. It
yep,
just means we haven't seen it, and then we've seen shit. It's good enough.
yeah.
There you are.
No, I just think it's
But
fascinating to see where you come from
the
with that.
element of a lot of those, and the whole point of a lot of those, I mean, everything, right down to the invention of hell as a hellfire demons and blah blah blah, as opposed to just the land of the dead. It's metaphors for us and our fears and our desires
Yeah,
and our hopes, and in a way of giving structure to the parts of. I mean, that's what's kind of interesting about doing this shit. I mean, this is like it's a piece of wood with some colored mud getting smeared on it. But if I get it right,
yeah,
you could look into the eyeball of this thing and actually recognize them.
yeah,
And that makes no fucking sense whatsoever. But we're constantly, we we live outside of our inside our own heads and trying to make the outside match,
mm,
and that disjointedness of our mental existence with the real physical, let's say, animal world of just trying to survive is where a lot of the both trauma and beauty come from being a human, and the expression of fairies and whatnot. And the other side is a recognition of that.
yeah,
I mean, it's that if there's the supernatural part, it's that element, like what we're trying to do with paint of 1 + 1 = 5, and the element of pile of chemistry and biology becomes this sentient thing that could go and
yeah.
recognize itself, judge itself, and beat itself up and go get a bottle of whiskey. And
I
and
love that
that's
as artists, though, that like we're able to create these doorways into places where people can wander and go into. So, and there's kind of a magic in that. So that's really cool and that's fun.
yeah, and that is that element of, the other. I don't, they say that when the conquistadors hit South America and the locals there looked out, they didn't see the ships because they had no visual understanding to go ahead and figure out what these giant things coming out of the water were all about.
That's so cool.
And I always, when it comes to concept art and whatnot, is visiting an alien planet or something coming from under the mountains in an entirely different way of seeing the world and building the world and the aesthetic of it and even their body type, we wouldn't recognize it. And so it's like all concept stuff is essentially us taking what we know and manipulating it. So it's always fun, but yeah, that's a bit of this animal, and that's a bit of that animal, and that's a bit of that costuming Lady Gaga wore, and okay.
But it's still
But
comfortable because it's things we know, just
yeah, but
in a
it's
modern.
also it's kind of one of those you can't get in. It's like the way Van Dyke paints or Rembrandt paints is like you can paint like him, but you can't paint like him because it's like we are not in the same headset
Yeah,
as a 16th century Dutchman with all of the shit in his life and the way that they even approach it, and that's the same species, and it's that removed, and we kind of forget that it's like things exist in time and context, and that's what's sort of fun when I go ahead and it's the, you have to go ahead and anchor a visual language into some kind of history just so that people have a string to grab onto, and then you could go and talk about something different.
yeah,
Otherwise you lose them, and that's where a lot of abstract work or post expressionists gets very difficult for a lot of normal people. They go to the museum, what the hell is that splotch all about? Because it's like you're not talking the same visual language as what we grew up with.
yeah. And you got to see it in the context of, yeah, where they were coming from.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And then once you go ahead and understand, that's where it starts turning into concept art as opposed to here's something neat I'm trying to communicate. Look at it, it'll speak for me. It's like if I have to speak for it, then I think and that comes to the illustrator part of me. I did my
yeah,
job wrong. But it's like if I was some big fine artist, something or other, and I got a big pile of blip on it, and it's like I need to have a dissertation to go and explain what it's about and how it's talking about the social economic structures of environmental blah blah blah.
that was one of the best tips that I got when I first started out in illustration is I had this little portfolio and I went to an early Gen Con and met a couple artists and I was like explaining the work as I went through and they were like right off the bat, I just want to tell you, if you have to explain your work, it shouldn't be in the portfolio.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that was such a good piece of advice there.
Yeah. I mean, they're just giving context.
Oh,
And that way you
100%.
can kind of see it's like, oh, this was to solve this problem. And then you
Yeah.
can kind of judge it. Did it solve the problem? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that comes to that whole element of context. Switches.
Well, hell yeah. This has been a freaking delight. Thank you so much for getting on here and chatting with me for a little bit
You're
today.
welcome.
And so what other conventions or shows or gallery things, anything can people see your work at coming up?
Well,
A lot of
look, we only do two shows. IX.
I look forward to seeing the stuff that you bring. And
Otherwise, go to the websites,
yeah, I was going to ask what are the
particularly
websites?
SheilaRayyan.com.
SheilaRayyan.com. And is there one for your work or should they just
Yeah,
Google?
yeah, there's one from me too.
Okay.
I think it's
I'll
Studio Ryan. I don't know. I can't remember.
I'll look it up and I'll put it at the bottom of the video.
I don't go to that website. I've seen the work there.
Ah, yeah, that
And
guy's a little
I
shady.
tend not to look at it. It's like it is always interesting when you go and come across something you painted like 5, 10 years ago.
Right. So what do
And
you
I'm
do with those old pieces? I have a studio full of things like I don't want to just destroy them. I don't want to get rid of them, but they don't represent me at all. What do you do with your weird old pieces?
um a lot of them are sold.
Oh, that's good.
Um and some of them aren't. I mean, I am starting to get a certain amount because it's like works on paper. It's easy to kind of just shove them in a corner somewhere.
For sure.
Yeah, and there probably is like a few boxes over there full of stuff because I did a shit ton of crappy work.
Same.
Um, but I also have a tendency of giving away things.
Yeah.
Um, there is actually a piece I'm building for IX. I just did the underwash for it yesterday that is rehashing an idea that I did in watercolor. And I thought it was a fun idea, but it didn't get it. Boo. I mean, that's what's good about, putting your stuff out there and whether things sell or not is pay attention to what people say and where their eyeballs go
Mm,
and kind of go like, wow, I thought that was really neat. And that, half the time, if it's like, I think it's cool, no one else does.
I
Or
feel
a
that.
piece like at this last show, Sheila didn't like that dueling piece I did, and it got talked up a lot. You know, so it's like I knew when I packed it, she said, I don't like that piece. And it's like it's gonna sell because she doesn't like it. Because it's like you never can figure, you
Yeah,
know. So it's like, you know, everything's got something, someone's got sometimes it takes years to go ahead and find the right person that wants that piece.
yeah.
And if they want it, I just give it to them if I've been holding on to it for a while.
Well, I guess I could also list them. That would probably help. But I'm like, I don't know if I like it, so I just don't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that comes a little bit of that trickiness when it comes to portfolio,
Mm,
and that starts getting into the identity element of you want to kind of put your best foot forward to some degree.
yeah,
So, but if just because it hasn't gotten traction doesn't mean it's a shitty piece.
for sure.
This means it hasn't found its time and place yet. I mean, a lot of these successful, I mean, that's why I like going back at least 100 years when I look at art, is if it's still making noise. You know, I mean, some of these people have been around for 500, 600 years, and we're still looking at them going, shit, that's cool. You know, they're not just a flash in the pan, not something that's satisfied the zeitgeist of the moment. And there's plenty of those now that we have this internet. I'm able to, it's really fun actually digging historically into a lot of painters globally that you just, you know, in art history, we just never went.
Yeah.
They were just unknowns, and there's no coffee table books about these people, but they were like hot shit in their day. And you kind of get a better sense of like, you know, wow, that guy was selling out in 1820 and we don't even know his name now. You know,
Yeah.
it's that sort of thing. It happens all the time. And it's like, great. You know, I mean, I'm not looking to go and be longevity recognized 500 years from now, but
Or like all those amazing poster painters of the 20s and stuff
yeah.
that we might not know their names, but we know their work.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's the commercial ones where it's anonymous, especially in the early and mid 20th century, where commercial art was,
Yeah.
yeah,
It was a labor.
yeah,
The
as a labor. And it's like, and I had one of my collectors, he collected a lot of that stuff, and he would literally go to publishing houses and go through the warehouses and dumpsters
so
because the publishers would keep the originals, store
really
them, and then trash them and just dump them. So he'll go ahead and buy literally entire warehouses of pulp book covers and things like that.
wild.
Which and some of those pulp cover artists were just fantastic. I mean, they can paint like the Dickens and whip
Oh,
those
yeah.
things out like nothing.
Well, just talking about the classics and everything, it really makes me want to go back into the museum. I remember in college, one of my favorite things was we got to just spend the day going to the museum, and I could just stand in front of a gorgeous old painting and just stare at every little brush stroke and choice that was made with color
Yeah,
and everything, and just really absorb it. It's so much different than just looking at it on the computer.
yeah. Well, there's certain ones. There are some that actually. It's really funny. It's like a lot of the Impressionists. I was not as impressed with the original,
Yeah.
and but then there's others that it's like, you know. I mean, the last one I think was a Sargent exhibit actually at the MFA, and giant. I mean, it's one of the problems is like his portraiture is like life size, but it was just fine because you end up being eye to hand.
Yeah.
I'd love to go and get a stool and be able to stare at the brushwork of how he went ahead and did the lips and the nose, but it was like it's way up there, god damn it. But it's like to be able to go ahead and this, and I've set off so many buzzers at museums.
No, really?
Yeah, just getting in really close. And it's like, "Oh, shit." But it's like you look at a sergeant hand and you can see like three distinct layers
Mhm.
of like here's the underlayer map, there's the dark point, and then there's that one brush, and he went ahead and made that knuckle and finger. It's like,
Mm.
and that is hard to see in a repro, you know, but
Yeah.
it's like to go ahead and be able to actually, yeah, and they don't let you scratch and sniff, which is really annoying. But
Oh God. All right. Well, I should probably wrap this up and you can get back to painting and is Sheila still around?
no, she's somewhere. Oh, she went ahead and I think she did a post office run.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, again, thank you so much. You're
you're welcome.
awesome. I appreciate the
Oh,
chat.
you know, this was a lovely chat, you know, and it
And
got me through an hour of fiddling with this fucker. So,
hell yeah.
yeah.
Well, give my love to your wife. Oh, I wanted to show you. At IX, you gave me a hard time because I bought
Well,
stuff off Sheila, but you're like, you don't buy anything off of me. I
yeah.
this signed by
Oh,
you. I have a smaller book signed by you. I have stickers of yours on my car, but the car's a little too heavy for me to bring in and show you.
mm.
So, yeah, actually, you're one of my early favorites getting into fantasy art.
Oh,
Yeah. But
you're
I
making
wanted,
me feel
I,
old.
no, not that. I didn't get into fantasy art until like my senior year of college. Then once, because I had an illustration professor that brought out the Spectrum books,
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh, what is this
Spectrum was
world?
a good one back. I forgot about Spectrum.
Yeah, and I just tore
Yeah.
through all of them. I'm like,
Yeah,
these are
we don't
my
really have a
people.
venue for that anymore, do we?
Infected by art.
Infected. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah. We're not getting, because when it was like in school, it was Illustrators Annual. It's the Illustrators back in the 80s.
Oh, see, I did.
But it
I
was like,
graduated in
it
'04.
was, every element of the illustration industry being represented by all of these. And it was like the variety. And that's what I always liked
Yeah.
about illustration was the variety of solutions that could
Yeah.
be explored.
I always loved illustration in general. Anything I could get my hands on, I just thought it was beautiful. From book illustrations to Norman Rockwell's posters, just all of it. Gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what makes it kind of tricky to go ahead and work for gallery. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
trying to make a gallery transition. I'm an illustrator.
Yeah. Well, I remember in my oil painting class, I had a professor say, your work is very illustration. And he
Mhm.
didn't mean it as a compliment because, galleries,
Well, what now, because you were talking about getting fantasy color. So what era are you?
I graduated in '04.
So you're a 21st century person. So
Well,
that's why it's like, well, because it was around about that turn of the century that figurative work was starting to go and get reestablished in the fine art world.
hmm,
Figurative narrative work. And so illustration always was a bit of a kind of like, that's sellout, that's
yeah. Well, I
craft.
went to a fine art college. It was all about, yes.
Yes, that has still had that aspect to it is kind of
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, I was just kind of wondering when art schools are going to start shifting that prejudice.
Yeah, I would think that they would have by now, but I don't know. I've been
Yeah,
away from it too long.
no, because it's like, yeah, I graduated in 90
Okay.
and we had fine art majors in the illustration department because they were frustrated with the fine art department because it was go out there and splash paint and find yourself. And
Yeah.
they wanted structure. They wanted some kind of foundation of how to the basic foundations of building an oil painting. And it wasn't, and that was considered
Hmm.
representational atelier was not being respected back then because of
Yeah.
the modern art movement. If you wanted to be ever, in the higher echelons of fine art world, it was
Hmm.
you would be looked down upon. It's like, and that's a shame.
Yeah. My stuff was too representational, but I wanted to tell a story. I
Yeah,
liked that.
yeah, and now it's like a lot of fine artists are going into that. I think it was nurturing for me when it had and showed the kind of breaking point of like, hey, you could go ahead and paint like Rembrandt and be able to hang in a museum and be taken seriously as a contemporary artist. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Hell yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but it's like just a minute. Illustrators, especially fantasy illustrators, have been doing that shit the whole century of just getting pushed to the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. I'm going to get off here, but
All
thank
right.
you again so much. I look forward to seeing that piece when you got it finished too.
Yeah. Well, this. Uh,
Oh yeah, sneak peek.
sure.
Very cool.
More with beer.
I love it. Well,
Yeah,
hopefully
sorry.
you'll have some prints of him at a show soon, because I know I can't
Mhm.
afford the original.
Sure. Yeah. We take layaways and all of that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Just give us some bullion every month,
The
and
Kmart of Arts layaway.
yeah, yeah. No, we do that all the time. Because it's like it's more important. It goes to the right house,
I get that.
and it's like and I am very touched when somebody sees something and they need it.
Yeah.
That is because it's like I'm just like, why the fuck am I painting this? It's like. And
You bring
this
it.
is going to have a lot of lines on it, and I'm going to be like finding it very relaxing, a single figure with lots of noodling. I get to do noodling because there's all those bristles.
I love noodling. Oh, I love doing
Yeah.
hair. Yeah,
Yeah. There's a certain meditative element. Once the structure's kind of figured out, then it's just kind of settle back, put
playtime.
on a stupid book, and yeah, and just chill.
Right on. All right, honey. Well, I'm out
All
of
right.
here. Thanks again. Bye.
Thank you. How do I turn this fucker off?